I'm saying I'm right. I'm saying I'm wrong.
I'll just do it. Make it interesting. Thank you. There, so.
Free copy. That was my observation. Which is always Susan, are we ready? Yes, go on. Yes, ma'am. I think
All right, welcome everybody to the tax rates public hearing, budget and tax rates deliberation and adoption. The agendas are available in the back. And I welcome everyone. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Kuntz?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Jesse?
Here.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Here. Thank you. We'll begin with Matt. Please review the proposed tax rates for FY23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here tonight to have a public hearing on the proposed tax rates for fiscal year 2023, and afterwards, budget consideration and potential adoption of the FY 2023 budget. Starting off, the FY 2023 tax rates as proposed, the real estate is being proposed to go to 61 cents per 100 assessed value. While that is a 1 cent decrease from the 62 cent current rate, you see the little asterisk beside this bullet point. We'll go into greater detail as to why that's not quite a decrease. It's actually an increase of 6 cents, and I'll cover that in the next slide. Personal property tax rates on boats over 5 tons is proposed to increase to 98 cents per 100 assessed value from 62 cents. That's an increase of 36 cents per 100 assessed value, and that is only on the boats over 5 tons as proposed. All other personal property classifications remain at current rates. A little bit on this 2022 reassessment I'm sure everyone knows about. The assessment did equate to a substantial increase in our assessed property values in the county, excluding additional assessments due to new construction, improvements to property, and other relatively excluded items. Our new assessed value exceeded our previous assessed value by 12% in total valuation, and that is why a 1 cent decrease is actually a 6 cent increase. What that's known as a lowered rate necessary to offset the increased assessment. Last time in 2018, we had a relatively flat assessment. I think it came in at 0.9% if my memory serves. This one came in at 12. So when you have an assessment of that magnitude, what the county is required to do is calculate what the rate would be to levy essentially the same amount of taxes within 101% or 1% range of where you were the year before. That rate for Middlesex County this year is 55 cents per 100. This rate is known as the lowered tax rate. So in order to not have a tax increase here tonight, we would have to have a tax rate of 55 cents per 100. Of course, the board did authorize and advertise an effective rate increase. So the County of Middlesex is proposing to adopt a tax rate of 61 cents per 100 assessed value. That is the difference between, or it's a 6 cents difference between the lowered tax rate because of the assessment and the proposed rate at 61. So it's an effective 11% increase in taxes, and this difference is known as the effective tax increase. If that's not confusing enough, it's simply to say that we're trying to keep the revised assessed values and the rate substantially similar because the county is in need of the additional revenue that the revised assessed values is bringing in. And a little bit on that, just for the public here tonight that may not be as aware of it as the board or folks that attend our work sessions. Last January, when we entertained a presentation from our assessor, Steve Wampler, he notified the board in a meeting that we could expect a rate increase or assessment increase of approximately 15 to 20%, if my memory serves. Now, I remember Lud and I were talking, well, what do you think? I said, I think 10% probably very easily. And we had factors that were driving that. Coming out of COVID, a lot of house sales, people trying to get out of more populated areas, get out in the country where they can breathe and rest easy a little bit. Well, it came in at 12, and that is before the inflationary period we're in now. I dare say if we were to reassess again in 2 years, the rate would, or the, not the rate, the assessed value would go up quite a bit just due to inflation. Now, individual property taxes will vary based on their assessment. I know my assessment went up more than 12%. Some of y'all's may have went down a little bit or relative to the overall average of 12. I've heard some property owners had assessments go up as high as 40%. So their taxes will go up substantially because of that. So I prepared a slide just to kind of show the effect of this. At the proposed rate, a 61-cent rate on a $300,000 tax bill, you're looking at paying a reduced rate of taxes of about $30, as the proposed $18.60 before. Again, the assessed value of the house will drive that. So if your assessment went up dramatically, your taxes are going to go up pretty substantially as well. The board is lowering the tax rate a penny. That will help, but a lot of the increase is still being borne by real estate. And I will show you that in an upcoming slide. Before I show specific real estate and personal property taxes, I kind of want to give the public here tonight a snapshot of how our revenues come to fund the county. We are, like most rural counties in the Commonwealth of Virginia, really over-dependent on general property taxes. Real estate tax, personal property tax, and tax on corporate holdings from Virginia Power, telephone companies, things of that nature. 68% of our revenue comes from those sources, general property taxes, mostly personal property tax on vehicles, cars, and the like, and real estate. You'll notice that other local taxes are substantially lower. That's everything from sales tax, B-poll tax, the new cigarette tax, meals tax, things of that nature. So that's a snapshot of our revenue picture. Drilling down into that a little bit more, if I can get it, yep. You'll see the local sources of tax revenue when we remove all of those revenues from the state. This is what we generate locally. 60% of our revenue from local sources comes from real estate tax. And roughly 21% comes from personal property taxes. The new cigarette tax, which I'll mention a little later tonight, is up here. It's this little pink sliver. And it's actually coming in substantially better than we thought. Local sales and use taxes make up the largest portion of the smaller forms of tax revenue. These are our sales taxes. Just a quick slide that I try to show every year, showing where we stand in relation to other counties and their personal property tax rates. We are still at the bottom, just above Lancaster at 204. I made my annual call across the river. Lancaster County is keeping their boat tax at relative zero, and they have no plans to raise their personal property tax again this year. They had thought about it for funding some broadband improvements over there, but I think they found another source for that revenue. And I'll deviate slightly and I guess show an example. I might have an actual example next year. Lancaster County's local sales and tax revenue is going to be substantially larger sliver of their revenue pie than ours. And it's because of one big difference. They have a Walmart. So the regional average in our region is an average rate of $3.40. When you only look at the communities that use a clean trade valuation, the average is $3.61. So we're $1 below average on personal property tax, and we're proud of that. A couple of couple of quick thoughts before we open up the public hearing. The Board of Supervisors adopted the cigarette tax last year. It went into effect August 1st, and it's doing surprisingly well. We're estimating revenues to come in on that tax source to the tune of about $200,000, and that is reflected in this budget. I bring that up as a specific example because I thought it would be helpful for some of our members of the public and folks that don't normally come to meetings to understand a little bit more about what we're doing here in the county to try to keep our costs low, offset new costs, and of course keep our taxes low as a result. The first thing that we have been actively pursuing is trying to either sell or convert unneeded or unused property that the county and or schools, we'd have to talk with the schools about some of their property, of course, but we're trying to convert that unused and unneeded property back onto the tax rolls. We own some substantial tracts of land. If we have no immediate desire or plan to use them, we should perhaps sell them or convert them over to the Economic Development Authority so they can use them for economic development purposes, help attract businesses, and of course expand the tax base. That is something that we have been talking about for a number of years. We hope to really add some fuel to that this year coming. New tax initiatives, such as the cigarette tax. As soon as the General Assembly gave us the authority to tax it, the board was wise enough to do so, and that helps us diversify our tax structure so we can broaden the different sources of revenue so we hopefully over time can wean ourselves from the over-reliance on real estate taxes. We're investing in infrastructure within our community to encourage investment, improve property values, and broaden our tax base by making certain properties more valuable and hopefully encouraging their development to higher and better uses. These developments are, of course, targeted to our growth areas within the county as designated by our comprehensive plan. You know, we're talking about a substantial increase for COLA this year for all county and school staff. One of the things I think Middlesex excels at and continues to do well because we have a very good working environment. I'd say we have a good board, good public we serve, is we continue to maintain and recruit a talented, trained, and responsive workforce. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that because I think we take some of that for granted here. When I'm in the community, it's not often that I make it home before someone says, hey, let me tell you about what Betty did. Let me tell you what Anne-Marie did. And it's never, well, I won't say never. It's most often very positive feedback. And I hope y'all get that too. That's not the norm around the state. I know there have been moments when I've been at Food Line and the ice cream's melting because I'm listening for an hour because of a complaint, because of a code enforcement official or something along that line, where the citizen really didn't like what they were told. Even our code enforcement staff, and I'd like to think we've all had a hand in building that, work with the community well. They help guide them through the ordinances and the regulations so they can do what they need to do. We don't hear that enough, so I guess it's my job to kind of tout the workforce. So we're very proud of our people. You met a new one here tonight. She's hiding behind the screen. There she is, peeking under. I'd say, gentlemen of the board and ladies and gentlemen in the public here tonight, you've got a very, very good workforce, and we're blessed to have our people. I'm proud of them. Last but not least, we continue to work with and facilitate the expansion of existing businesses. And we work very hard to attract new businesses and assist them to get located within the county. Papers here tonight. Most of the general public have probably read by now about the tractor supply. I would say the county is really going out of their way through the leadership of Wayne Jesse and other on the board. We are working with the company to find them a great location, a great opportunity, and really just kind of opening the door with welcome arms. And I think they realize that. I think they know that we're working with them. We're trying to get them here. And I'm optimistic we're going to be successful. We're also helping existing businesses expand. Our campgrounds. Grace Point Campground's expanding. Of course, if anybody has went by Beth Page, you'll see the expansion going on there. I'd like to think some of Walt Hurley's dream is coming true with that entrance off of Virginia Street. great things are happening in this county. But all of these endeavors take time. It's planting acorns for oak trees sometimes. And it may not be this board or the next board even that sees the ramifications and the improvements and the benefits of some of these policies that we're putting in place. I say ramifications because there are going to be changes and there are going to be ramifications to these. We just hope that by the time the next census comes around in 2030, we haven't declined by another 500 people. Maybe we've attracted a new demographic to the county, continue to attract our retirees, continue to attract the folks that want to retire here and enjoy a very pleasant way of life, but also maybe attract some younger families. We've all heard we have a number of businesses struggling to find employees. I'd like to think and believe, in fact, I have a great deal of confidence in, these measures that the board and the staff are putting in place will help turn that tide over time. But it will take time. Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. It's a good overview. I'll now open the floor for public hearing to receive comments on the proposed tax rates. I will give you the following procedure for those who wish to speak. Each speaker will give his or her name and address for the record. Each speaker or individual will be given one opportunity to speak, and all comments or remarks will be addressed to the Board of Supervisors, not the audience. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. If you are representing a group of 4 or more individuals, let me know and I'll go over the procedure for that. So I will open the floor for public comment.
I have a total of 10 speakers that have signed up so far. Our first speaker is Lee Roberts of Topping.
Good evening, Board of Middlesex County. My name's Lee Roberts. I reside at 8264 General Puller Highway, Topping. I'm going to be brief. The real estate taxes continue to go up. That has to abate. I think we need to stay at the 55% tax rate. We either go up on the assessment or we go up on the tax rate, and it's just one cycle to the other. And then the year we don't go up on taxes, and say, well, we did go up on taxes, but we went up on the other. We got to find other ways of making money or cutting the budget. That's the thing that people seem not to want to do. The average household, we all have to trim the budget, trim the fat, figure out ways to stretch the dollar. We just cannot continue to print money out of thin air like it seems like everybody just thinks we can do. I'm fine for the boat tax. That's a luxury thing. If you can buy a boat, you can pay the tax on the boat. If you don't want the boat, you can get rid of the boat. But we all have to have a place to live. And, some of us like to retire one day, and some of us are already retired and fixed incomes and so forth. And that is a strain on the budget of those households. So therefore, I propose that the 55% tax should be in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Our next speaker is Andy Anderson of Urbana.
Good evening, Board. My name's Andy Anderson. I reside at 370 Rappahannock Avenue in Urbana. My wife and I are the relatively new owners of the Bridge Marina, Urbana Port Marina, and I'd like to speak on behalf of what I understand of the situation in the marine industry in Middlesex. First of all, I'd heard that maybe innuendo's rumor, but I'd been informed that the board had had a presentation about a report about the success of the marine industry in Middlesex. And I'd like to say that to my knowledge, I know our marina and a lot of other marinas are not fully booked. And I'd like to say that our rates are lower than the surrounding counties. And the reason being is the surrounding counties have a bigger supply and demand issue because they have relatively zero tax. And it's hurting our industry. Our industry is actually smaller, as Lud presented a month or so ago, that our industry is shrinking. So if we're fighting change, you know, change is usually considered getting larger. We're dying. Our industry is dying. And you can look at this as being a marine industry issue, but it's not really. The issue is the counties around you have changed the game, and we're losing. Look at the pie chart that was presented as far as sales tax and all these other things that are revenue driven. You know, you want to get away from real estate tax. Marine tax is a relatively small pie. But if you can get people to come in here on a weekly basis and drop their disposable money in this county, lodging tax, sales tax, restaurant tax, all these things, and deposit money into your town, into your county, and leave and not burden your schools and fire department, I think that's a home run. And I think all the other surrounding counties are realizing that, and we need to get on the same page. It's not a luxury. It is a luxury tax in a way, but the luxury, we don't have the luxury of having a lot of boats here. You can say, we can go into government class, flat tax, you know, progressive tax, regressive tax. The problem is that all the other counties have changed the game. So I'd like to say that we're excited about being the new owners of the marina. It's a wonderful thing. It's the pinnacle. It's one of the pinnacles of our county. Without the marine industry, we're really, really in trouble. And we need to join the game that other people are playing. Just say if another county eliminated cigarette tax, everybody go buy their cigarettes in another county, right? That's exactly what's happening right here with the marine industry. And people are dodging the bullet, leaving town when the assessments are, and they go get their boat worked in Lancaster. I mean, we're fooling ourselves. People are playing the game, and we need to join the same game. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Our third speaker is Jim Nupp from Hartfield.
Good evening. My name is Jim Nupp. I live at 616 Wilton Coves Drive in Hartfield. I'm here to encourage you to invest in education. The increase that's been proposed for teacher salaries will barely cover what we're seeing now in inflation. Teachers have been behind a good salary, competitive salary with other counties and other states, and it's time to catch them up some. Why? Well, if you reward them, you may have a chance to retain them, and you may have a chance to recruit replacements. The bottom line is you got to have a competitive wage. Teachers are retiring more than before because of aggressive parent relations, underpayment, long hours, COVID, whatever you want. Teaching is the only profession that causes other professions. Our kids deserve quality education. It's my understanding that on average in the past years, we've lost maybe 1 to 3 teachers a year, and last year we lost 8. Now, why was that? Is it because we pay them competitively? We take care of them? We need to reward them, retain them, and recruit them. If we don't, somebody else will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nupp.
Our next speaker is Laura Longton of Urbana.
I'm Laura Longton, 18 Mill Pond Road, Urbana, Virginia. My only thing is, I never got that little yellow thing saying that assessments were done. I've called the courthouse. They said, well, they were helpful, but they didn't know why we didn't get it. My neighborhood, one neighbor got it, but so far the rest of us didn't. And I'd just like to get my assessment and know what it is. And why we didn't get it in our area, I'm not sure. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Don Pringle from Deltaville.
Good evening, board members. Don Pringle, 251 Neptune Lane, Deltaville. I'm the owner of Regatta Point, formerly Dozier's Marina. I acquired it back in 2019. I think there's maybe a misconception as far as, when a marina sells, everybody thinks, oh, it sold for millions of dollars. But when you compare that to what those assessed values were, even my own, when I acquired it in 2019, I paid $1 million less than the assessed value. And meantime, I'm still paying taxes on what it was assessed at up until the next assessment. Okay. There's this thought that, okay, we can tax these boaters. It's a luxury item. It's a good thing, right? Because these people have these boats here and they can't vote here. So it's actually kind of odd, right? They have no representation from you all. Fine. But the thing that people forget is these boats are not attached to the land. They can easily move it to Lancaster. They can take it anywhere they want, when they want. And so to put the marine industry in a situation where we're having to not only compete on price, but now because of the counties wanting their piece of every boat that's here, that even makes it more difficult for us to compete as an industry. We want to hire people. We want to have more jobs here for our community to help support our community. But yet, if every time we turn around, we're being fought because of boat tax or whatever, when all they have to do is move across the river to Lancaster, or all they have to do is go a little south, and they have no boat tax. These individuals didn't make money by being dumb. So to think that, okay, I'm going to apply this boat tax, there's nothing they can do, I guarantee you they'll just up and say, okay, we'll go someplace else. We don't need to stay here. Then we just lost all the sales tax, as others have said, the revenue, and everything that goes with it. All these restaurants, we're losing restaurants all the time. And when winter season is here, it's almost like a ghost town in downtown Deltaville. I mean, we live for the summers here. And if you take the marine industry away, you won't have a West Marine. Our grocery store down there in the wintertime is empty. So chances are it won't be there either. And forget about herds as well, because everybody relies on our summers to survive. And whether we're sending people to herds or sending people to West Marine or, J&W's or any of the restaurants in town, we're doing all those recommendations. And that's what we want to do to help support our community. So, I just ask that you guys think about that, work with us. We're here, we want to make this community really successful, and we want to build it. That's why we invested our money here. But if, what are we supposed to do in the future if we can't? So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pringle.
The sixth public speaker is John Fahrenholt of Hartfield.
Good evening. I'm John Fahrenholt, Hartfield, 11717 General Puller Highway. I'm here to talk about the boat tax issue at hand. I have been in front of the board numerous times and have talked about the marine industry as a whole. And again, I go back and discuss the marine industry as not only marinas, it is the boat yards that service the boats that come to the county. Okay, it is the watermen that go out and fish our waters around the county as well. And it's also the other services that the marine industry works with, such as the brokers, such as individual tradesmen that are in the mechanic side, the sail maker, the upholstery person, and so forth. So the marine industry is not just a marina issue. It is more involved in that. There's been some communication regarding the number of boats in the county. And I'd like to speak about 5 tons and over boats. That number has not increased in past years. The number of boats in that area is constant or going down. The reason for that is all of the new boat sales that do take place by our brokers here in the county, those boats do not stay in the county. Those are boats that are 30 feet and over, and they sell, they're brand new, they stay in the county for a very short period of time, and then they depart. They're not staying in the county. Therefore, the older boats are staying in the county. These are boats that are 20-plus years old are the ones that are staying in the county. So it's important to realize that the value or the assessed value of boats is not going up in the 5 tons and over, because those new boats that help bring that number up aren't staying. Just boats are getting older, and of course, their values are depreciating. That's important that I wanted to make sure that we talked about. Now, again, the negative impact to the marine industry with the price increase over boats over 5 tons will lead to another wave of departures from the county. And as Mr. Pringle had talked about and Mr. Anderson had talked about, the marine industry is fragile, and we really need your support in keeping the tax rate for 5 tons and over so that we can continue to build this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Farrenhold.
The 7th public speaker is Rochelle Smith of Deltaville.
Hello, I'm Rochelle Smith. I live at 18344 General Puller Highway. And in looking back, I realized that I've been in this county nearly 50 years. When I first came here with my husband, Captain Crunch, to become involved in the boating industry here, Middlesex County was number 3 in the state of Virginia in boat registrations. Number 3, behind only Virginia Beach and the city of Chesapeake. They were everywhere. There were 12 boat yards here, and business was booming. Well, over the years, things have changed, and Ludd has given you some of the statistics. Since 2007, the decline in 17% in boat registrations. I thought that I wrote a letter to the paper when I opened the Southside Sentinel a couple of weeks ago and saw that the boat rate was going to go up again. I was so shocked I couldn't believe it. My dream is that this boat tax is going to go away. And I thought, I'm gonna write a letter to the newspaper, and then I thought, how cowardly. I wanted you to see the face of somebody who's worked here their whole life. I started my current business 25 years ago. I have intimate knowledge year after year of what's going on in the marine business here. And I can tell you the number of customers I have that own large, nice boats, they've gone. I mean, as Mr. Anderson said, they're smart people that have the luxury of buying a boat. They've made their money somewhere, and they're cognizant of their expenses, and you are taxing a mobile asset that can simply untie and go over to Lancaster or go down to Matthews or go to Gloucester County and escape thousands of dollars in taxes. Well, and that's only, we're talking about the $189,000 in taxes that you seem to clutch onto. Then there's all the money that's lost from these people who have the disposable income to go out and eat in restaurants, to buy supplies, to go into Hurd's Hardware. to buy supplies. I mean, these people have the money to spend, and we are driving them out of here simply with this tax. I'm just, not only do I want you to lower the tax, I would like for you to abolish this tax that is unique to Middlesex County. These people are just, are going to leave. We're going to have another wave and then we're not going to have any more restaurants, and you know, it's just a sad situation, and I've lived it, and I can tell you that. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
The 8th public speaker is Davis Wilson out of Saluda.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Davis Wilson, 781 Courthouse Drive. I live right here in Saluda, the capital. I'm here today to tell you that I really just want to be treated fairly. That's all I'm asking for. I pay $2.60 per 100 for a vehicle, an RV. I have an RV. I consider that a luxury. A vehicle you have to have in this county. We're supposed to be a rural county, so you have to be able to drive to and from work to make income to pay our taxes and pay our bills to maintain. The camper is not a necessity in my life. I have a boat. I've been paying my boat tax. It's not a necessity in my life either. It's a luxury. So if I want to have it, I need to pay for it. An airplane in this county. You can afford to own an airplane in this county, and you pay $2.10 per 100. Why is an airplane being charged $2.10 per 100 when I'm paying, and that's another luxury, then I'm still paying $2.60 for a vehicle? If you would come across the board and treat everybody the same. I hear all these people talk about boat tax, boat tax. These people don't have an idea what's causing the boat tax problem. Go to Deltaville. When I was a kid, rockfish were jumping out the water. You couldn't get up and down the street during rockfish season. Wintertime, summertime, didn't make any difference. There are no rockfish. Bluefish came in. Those of you who lived here all your lives, you remember these days. There are plenty of bluefish. People were up and down the road everywhere. Well, unfortunately, who wants to go out in the river and spend $1,000 in tackle, boat, a small skiff? I'm not talking about these big luxury boats. I can't afford that. They're going to go out. Why would you go out and catch one fish? I mean, realistically speaking, it's kind of asinine to go out and think that you can go out and enjoy catching your meal when you're only allowed one fish. So I think people are thinking that this is a little bit different. If there were plenty of fish, I think the people in the boats, everybody want to be in Deltaville. Deltaville, the sell. None of you are here, probably Wayne, probably, and Dawn and Red, you probably remember it. You couldn't find a parking spot at the sell to go over and fish. There were so many boats around, but there were trout, there were bluefish, there was everything there. They aren't there. So maybe the boat problem, tax some of these marina problems, it's not the fact that people don't want to keep their boat here. It's no need to keep the boat here. What's here in the county to keep them here? So, but like I said, that's neither here nor there. You all already probably made your mind up. But as my representative, I want you to know that I want to see you keep the tax rate fair across the board for everybody. Everybody pay the same thing. Be no more problems. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
My 9th public speaker is Linda Muller. My 9th public speaker is Hal Muller.
She's going to let me do it tonight. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Harold Muller. I live in 1939 Kilmers Point Drive. My father told me one time, he said, you didn't have to make a lot of money. He said, you just had to take care of what you make. And I know each one of you sit in those chairs and want to be good stewards of the money that the people in this county give you. We've all worked hard for our tax dollars. Now that I'm in my twilight years, I kind of sit back on the fruits of my labor from all those years, and I can enjoy it. When you say we need to give the teachers a 7% increase, maybe even more, and I heard people say a starting salary in Middlesex County is $32,000. It's not. If you go to the school board site, it's $43,200. Then if you equate that to a full year, instead of working 200, that you worked a full 228 days or more, like the guy at the gas station does, it comes out to be a starting salary of around $52,600. That's pretty good for this county. It's a lot better than you're asking the people to pay those taxes to increase those salaries. We have property in this county. We had to run down to Deltaville and pay $226,000 for waterfront access and maybe something for the water plant or a tower. Nobody wanted us down there, so there's a piece of property for $226,000 when the market is going wild for waterfront property. We're sitting on it, not doing a thing with it. We're not selling it. We're not being good stewards of the money. We have a piece of property that we paid $560,000 for at Stormont, right across. Do we lease it to anybody? Do we do anything with it? Do we get any revenues from it at all? John rented it. He rented it for $200 a month on a $560,000 investment. We have so many pieces of property in this county that either we need to dispose of to lower the tax burden, maybe take it off of the boats, do whatever you think is best, because you're the Board of Supervisors. You need to know. But you need to look at where every dollar in this county is going, and those properties are owned by the taxpayers of this county. They're not yours to sit by the side of the road and if something will come along. Someday something will come along. Let's get the money out of it. Let's invest that money in the county now to make the county more profitable. I looked at that with Chip Holt, and I was supposed to be intimately involved with all of those properties. And Chip told me, "Oh, I've got it all done. They're all okay. You don't have to be involved in it at all." But I know where there's a lot of properties here that we've spent a lot of good, hard-earned tax dollars on that's just sitting there. Let's do something with it.
Thank you, Mr. Muller.
And that's the end of my public speaker list.
That's the end of everyone who has signed up in advance. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board?
Hi, my name is Katie Carnes. I live in Hartfield, Virginia. We do have a problem in this county. Most of the residents that I know, that I'm friends with, or I work with, or that live near me, or that I've spoken with on social media are unhappy. And my fear is starting to equate, or starting to get even an inkling of a thought that people in this county are looking at our county and thinking that it may have connections to what's turning into a poorly run business. And this is nothing against you, and I'm not saying that it is a poorly run business. The concern is when you have a poorly run business, you need money. You don't have money, and you don't have the avenues to come up with the money that you need to pay your bills. Then you've got disgruntled employees that are not happy. You cannot come out of that hole. The real estate tax is not making anyone happy. Everybody's upset. I heard Matt Walker talk about how we need to increase our base. We need to increase the number of residents here. It has gone down since the last census. I agree. But how are we going to get more people here? He talked about, we want people to come here and retire. We want younger families here with children. What do those two populations need? The retired residents are usually on a fixed income. They're not working full-time. They're not continuing to build. They're starting to go, they're into their retirement, their 401k, or fixed income. We're raising their real estate tax. A lot of these people, they live in their homes. They don't have a mortgage. They just pay the taxes and insurance on their home. How can they stay in their home? How can they stay here if their real estate taxes just went up significantly, we're not fostering their security. We're not fostering the security for the younger families who have children. I have 5 children with my husband. Our grocery bills have almost doubled. I know in the news it says they've gone up, I think they said like 17%. No. I have gone from shopping at Food Lion and Kroger to shopping at Aldi. I can't even go in the Deltaville market unless I need something on a whim. And it's nothing against the market, but the cost is a little bit more. I switched to going to just Walmart. Can't do that now. Now we go to Aldi, which is fine. And then I have to fill in the other stuff that my children won't eat at Walmart just to still stay 50% over where I was 2 years ago. Gas has more than doubled. So our household expenses are going up. Now my real estate tax, do I have your time? I'm gonna take Linda's time, sorry. So my real estate tax, my assessment went up 51%.
I'm sorry, Ms. Carnes.
Yes.
You can't just take someone else's time.
Oh, I need 3. Anybody else not gonna speak? I think I have. Is anybody not going to speak? She's going to speak. Oh. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Carnes. Would anybody else like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Patricia Taylor. I live at 1864 Mariners Woods Drive, Hartfield. The focus of my concern is the building improvements portion in which our increase on our home was 23%. We assumed the assessor never viewed the property, and there have been no improvements to the property in the past 5 years. In comparing waterfront assessments with my neighbors who have made improvements, none of them have this extreme markup. Most were below 10%. My husband proposed a counteroffer to the assessor's office, reassessment office, and we got a very tiny change. We'd like to know what the criteria and data is used by our assessors to arrive at the numbers in order to pursue other avenues of rectification. I'm just reading my husband's letter, which he wrote in November to the assessor, but he died in January, so I feel like I need to speak for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I'm sorry for your loss. Would anybody else like to address the board?
My name is Dawn Moore. I live on Burles Marina Road in Urbana. I know you all like to take a lot of credit for that congestion that's coming to Urbana Road, the noise that's in my living room from the campground. I might as well be partying with them, but I'm not allowed there because I am a community member. During their busy season, us community members are not allowed at the campground, only off-season. So now I have even more noise in my living room, and it starts Friday night, and it does not end until Sunday night. Till 12 o'clock at night, I got boom, 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 boom. Hey, let's do the Cupid Shuffle. Right in my living room, clear as day. Thank you. My problem is you brought all that revenue, give the teachers their pay. I have a child in this school system. I have nieces and nephews in this school system. I work 2 jobs to survive, and you're gonna raise taxes again? My pay does not go up as fast as your tax rate does. The shopping, grocery shopping, I walk out of Food Lion with 2 bags and I'll spend $100 and I say, on what? Our pay does not go up as fast as our tax rate. You have the tax rate going up. You expect small business to compensate for that. Our businesses are closing faster than you're bringing business to the county. 3 businesses that I go to closed. So if we can't bring business back in here fast enough, and I understand what the issue with the boating industry, but I have a family member, he has a boat, he has to pay his taxes because he's under 5 tons. So us middle to lower class people, tax increase, but the richer people get a free ride. I don't agree with that. You can make the money to have the luxuries, as this gentleman said. Be fair across the board. Don't keep putting me in a bigger hole and letting the rich people skate by past me. I'm paying their taxes. All the county property, do something with it. Stop taxing me to give you free property to sit on. Do something with the stuff. I don't have property I can sit on because I can't afford to pay for it. Help us lower to middle class people in this county before we have to leave here. I'll get a better break in Gloucester than I do here, but I prefer to bring my child up here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Would anyone else like to address the board about tax rates? Very well, I'll close the public comment period. At this time, we'll have the board deliberation about the tax rate, the proposed tax rates. And I will invite each board member to provide their comments and perspective. And Mr. Williams, I'll start down at your end, if that's all right.
I wonder why you wanted me to go first. I guess I know. I heard some very good things tonight. The gentleman that spoke over there about county land and we doing something with it. I'm on board with you 100%. I'm gonna let you know that because we gotta see these things. But I'm a straight aisle guy. I think things should be fair and equal. See, that's where I was brought up. A gentleman spoke about, which in my district, and I'm sorry, Ms. Taylor, that you didn't get with me let me know so I could help you with that assessment because you didn't get it. I'm sorry about that, but I was telling everybody, if you're not satisfied with your assessments, please go do something about it because once you get locked in, your assessment gonna go up. And an example of different things, I think an individual spoke about what he paid for something. And he had tax paid on it for what he had paid in previous years. See, and I said the thing like this here because individuals buy something and they pay tax on it. Sometimes they pay too much for it. But we only do assessments, and I don't think we should do them every 2 years. I'm not going to change on that. But I know that the budget are tax driven. So if you go out and purchase something, and I said this, I see you go out and purchase something, you know what the tax is going to be on it. If you go and bid on something and pay too much money, you know what the tax until you get an assessment. See, these kind of things that we are not doing. So we base it on 2 years now. And the county's in some debt. We can't kid you. We're in debt. And I've been telling everybody that talked to me during assessment, I said, look, I don't care them, but the percentages, your rate you're going to pay up at the end of the month, it's going to go up. That's what I'm telling you, it's going to go up. I'm going to keep it all simple. And, the schools, for instance, are looking out in how supportive the schools. Nobody's more supportive of the schools than I am. My kids went to these schools, graduated. My son was on the only state championship at the football team. My daughter graduated. She runs a clinic. My youngest child is in education, and she's a buff. She go to the University of Georgia, and we're working on a doctorate degree. So Millsic's been good for my family, and a lot of individuals that have been here been good to their families because I know their family. And I believe in education. But how many school board members are here tonight? Because they got to hear some of the things when we dedicate money for the school system to get it. They don't go where we want it to go. Then you come back at the supervisor, and once you look at us, you're looking at the taxpayer, okay? So when you see me and you talk about money, we talking about taxes. So yes, I want a state-of-the-art school. It's not a mystery. And I feel, I've been on the board for 3 years, and I'm still learning, but I have a whole lot of things I don't like. I don't like spending money over top money. And just to update you, being I don't have no time frame, I don't think, call me first. Anyway, it's just like the schools is supposed to be doing a renovation. See, nobody, we studying it, okay? $75,000 a study. I'm the type of guy, look, if I'm gonna go buy a car, I already know what I'm gonna pay it, I know I'm gonna buy it. But we're gonna study it. We waste a whole lot of money in studying. We gotta change the way we do things, and we gotta be smarter at how we do it. We can be better, regardless of how good we are. We can be better than what we are. Let me say, I tested County Providence because I agree with him, and I agree with Mr. Wilson. Everything should be equal, and I'm not gonna back off that. It should be fair if you gotta start over and do something better. Now I'm gonna say one thing about the boat tax. I'm gonna jump on that boat tax. Everybody know how I feel about it. A gentleman down in Gloucester was running a restaurant, and he said, Reggie, and most of us go to it, he said, you know, just for the pandemic, I could take off 3 days and my business still running and everything. And you know now I can't get help to help me run my business. I said, well, I remember having a conversation saying when things were bad, staff didn't want to come to work. You worked 7 hours a week, sometimes 16 hours a day. Sometimes your family came in there and pitched in. Have you forgot where you come from? So a lot of times, and we're gonna have to pass the profit back because in the 80s, most of y'all might not know what happened in the 80s. As traffic controlments and all these kind of stuff, it happened in the 80s. So now we're weeping some of it. You know, you're losing retirement benefits as you get old. My age, you kind of like walk into it because corporations had it. Healthcare, we walk into it. We talking about the schools. I'm still checking about, we can do better as a county for the teachers to offer them something. Also, stipends. I think I use Matt as an example. Even if we gave them a 10% raise, and we got janitors or Saxons or whatever you call them, they eat. We got parapros, for instance. Nobody sent them but the parapros. Who's staying in the school system? Who's your best assistant? Well, I tell you what they done years ago. They cut that. They cut the money for all of them. You was making too much money. But yet, the wages at the top are separation. So that's what I'm talking about from the 80s, late 80s to now. So now if you look at administration and stuff, whatever, from the second time, you look at your secretaries and where the administration's at. All of a sudden, everything is going the other way. So that's a way we thinking. I think it's, I'm using Matt as an example since he's on the end. I said, now, if we gave him a 10% raise, and we gave a Power Pro a 10% raise, Power Pro get $1,500, he get $15,000. That's just not right with me. Okay, I'm sorry. And whether you like it or not, it don't make no difference. But they're gonna tell me that because of our education, because of our going to school, they're gonna tell me this thing is all right. It's not. We gotta be better at what we do, and we gotta do it in a different way. We can't keep somebody else to bail us out all the time. We made a mistake. Now I'm gonna give you 2 examples of this, and that's why we are here tonight with the room full up. We built a school, what we do to the school? We put a shingle roof on a 312 pitch, and we had to turn around and put a tin roof on it. But see, somebody had to do that because they had to make a decision. Boat tax, hey, I love it. And when you're talking about 50 years here where my families all up grew up in the water, they had boats, they take people out because I come in the kid families, you know the kids, that's my cousin, these what they came. That's what we did. We were boaters. So all of a sudden, when you're talking about boats, and the gentleman's right, you could go down there and you could catch fish. I went down Crichton Creek the other day. Fellow that I know, he was standing. I said, what you doing down here this time? He said, I'm looking at the tide so I can get on my little skiff and make sure I catch fish. I said, skiff. And he was gonna ride out there and catch it. These are the kind of things in a rural setting that it's hard to explain. Now, if you got a boat over 5,000 pounds, we can talk all the jive all we want. A lady wrote a letter last week or so. I think it was last week. Most of us wrote it. She said slip fee was $4,000. I said, I wonder who get that. And I don't know how I'm going to ever pay the taxes if it go up. And you know what I said to myself? Because we rent these rental places in the county, all of them are not the same rate. Okay? Some of them give you a better rate. They leave Gloucester, come to Middlesex because they are doing their business. They're not trying to put everything in their pocket. Once you establish your name, people gonna come to you to work. Okay? I got certain places I'm gonna buy a car for because of customer service. I don't give a darn where you go to. And you can give me a better price. And they have given me a better price. And I told them, look, this is what I can get. But I said, I'm gonna buy it from you. We gotta set ourselves in a way that Middlesex used to be. Middlesex used to be that we work together as a team. We gotta think of a different way to do things, boating industry, and maybe we need an industrial park. I don't know. These are ideas, because Middlesex is growing. Okay, but we gotta grow smart, because right now we're in debt, and I don't care how we fix it up or sweeten it up, and we gotta get at it. So I probably missed most of the thing. I don't like go first. And Lord, he did this time. I'm gonna tell him later on. But I'm gonna get back to why we're here. I feel that we should treat people the same. I don't want nobody else. I don't want to pay somebody else's bill. I do understand in the boat industry how you're saying that we are losing some customers. But at the same time, I heard a gentleman say last year that his business was doing real well. You know, and we forget some of the things that we brought up on. It's a time to buy, and it's a time to sell. That means you buy low, you sell high. You see the market, what the market's doing, you don't hold. We hold on to it, we the old guys. We hold on to it because we bed it in here. So we don't let it go. We go with the tide. So I'm just letting you know where I stand, and I'm not gonna change my mind. I think things should be equal, fair, then we can work on it. And what I mean work on it, we are willing to get together to work with the boat industry to come up with something. But why shouldn't we go back to where we was at? Because the problem was, like I said before, but the roof, y'all laughing, weren't you? The problem was because we dropped it. If we had left it alone, it wouldn't be a problem. But we had to mess with it, and we messed with it the wrong way. Because I had people come up to me and say, why they getting a break? And I gotta pay 98 cents. And I hate to say this in a roundabout way, but if you fair, people don't influence you by what you do. You make your influence on your opinion based on what you live by. And I appreciate that when the lady got a little upset because I didn't know you, but I wish you had. And I'm just letting you know, I'm your supervisor, the gentleman that was talking up first. I think it was, yeah, and I talked to him in a good conversation. I know what he said. I like to talk to people. I like the ideas because it only make all us better. And we are tax-based driven, but we doing better. We got things like Mr. Walker said, and Wayne was working on Tractor Supply, and we really think that this thing's gonna happen, and we had to push hard, and that was one trickery that never should have happened. And we had to struggle to do the right thing for the county. These things we gotta get over. And we gotta come together, boating industry, hey, we gotta get together and see how we can fix this thing. We can't keep on looking at Lancaster. They got somebody throwing money to pay their taxes because they gotta pay taxes like everybody else. Now, whether it's their boat or something else. And when we wanna stress something, we always pick the high point. Regardless of where you're staying at, if you're not paying your proper taxes, somebody else gotta make it up. And in the school system, we give away free lunches, but we don't get much money from the state. So where's all this money? I don't get that. And I drive a school bus. And I say this over again, so it's easy when you tell the truth. I drive a school bus. I watch every school I go to. I find out who the principal is, the assistant principal, and if they're at an event, then I talk to them. Now we said we gotta look up for stuff. When I was in school 50 years ago, teachers came to ball games. Teachers supported the students. We got a love sign written right up here at the thing. These are the, how can we get back? I want to pay you, but I like stipends. Sometimes you got to pay people to do stuff now. It's crazy, but the things that I was brought up in, you almost got to pay them to do it now. And you make much money as you want, but you got to do certain things. And it was a time like that you got to go to the meeting. We don't see nobody here tonight from the school system, not there. So the most important, I guess the highest price budget we got. and we had a budget here. Anybody here?
You got Tracy.
Oh, Tracy, I didn't see you, these glasses on. Hey, look, don't blame it on me, blame it on these glasses because they're fogged up after I get out. But I do like the idea of her being here, but she is here by herself. I don't see no teachers or nothing there. And it's good that she's standing up for them. But it's good for you to have my back and support. But I do like the teachers, and I've talked to Tracy before, so she know these kind of things I'm saying. Yes, I do like stipend. Let me fix it up. I do like zero insurance that they have to pay, setting up a thing that they're going to have to pay for their insurance coverage. I do like that. I do like stipends as different things to do. I do think that there should be at school board meetings. There should be at a certain amount of a board of supervisors meeting. They should be showing themselves at an event because the kids are watching us because they're not seeing as much love as they're supposed to see. And the first thing we say, tell them you love you. You show them you love you. That's what the difference makes. So I done got off subject now, and don't you call me first no more so I can get my stuff right. But I didn't say what I want to say, but I'm just saying how I'm going to see about the treating everybody fair and equal. That's my main thing. And put things back like it was. Then we work from there. And don't be like the roof on the elementary school. Then we got to turn around and put a tin roof on top of that. We waste the taxpayers' money. So I'm just going to leave that alone.
Thank you, Reggie.
I didn't say what I want to say. So.
Thank you very much. John, how about you?
Well, Reggie, if you're the number one supporter of the schools, I'm going to be the number two supporter of the schools, and we'll see where everybody else lands. In the last 13 years, the school board brings to the Board of Supervisors a budget, and the state mandates that that budget is based on their needs. A field goal kicker, when he needs to kick a field goal, he knows two things. He needs to kick it high enough to cross the crossbar, and it needs to be in between the field goal posts. The way it's set right now, in the last 13 years, when our school hands us their needs-based budget, and we go to kick that field goal, 8 of the last 13 years, we hit the crossbar. We met the need. No, 5 of the 13. 5 out of 13 years, we've hit the crossbar. We met the need. We've never exceeded the need. We've never exactly kicked a field goal for the schools. 8 of the 13 years, we haven't met the need. So we kicked the ball under the crossbar. So as the number 2 supporter on this board, self-claimed, of the schools, and knowing that over those 13 years, we've averaged underfunding the schools based on what they have told us their need is. Our average each year is $233,000. Some years we hit that crossbar. They say they need 10 million, we give them 10 million. Sometimes they say 9 million, we give them 9 million. We hit their needs. We've never exceeded their needs. 8 out of 13 of the last years, we have been under their needs. And so inflation arrives at a rate that we all are talking about, whether it's Aldi or gas prices or containers off of ports or restaurants closing or servers not serving. We're experiencing inflation like we're not used to. 6% is a lot different than 2%. Our average inflation these last 13 years was 2.1%. In March, it was 6.5. It hasn't been below 4 since last October. So we're just continuing to live in a place where everybody who works everywhere is paying more for everything. And yet the school board comes to us and hands us the football like Charlie Brown and whatever, is it Peppermint Patty, the one that holds it? I can't remember. But we go to kick that ball, and the inflation doesn't change anything. They've told us where the crossbar is, and we know we're either going to hit it or kick it underneath that crossbar. And the proposed budget proposes that we just go ahead and kick it underneath and not even acknowledge the inflation that everybody's talking about. And notice I'm still just talking about the schools. We're not even onto the boats yet. So what I'm willing to support for a budget this year is that the real estate tax is at 61 cents instead of 62, which isn't a decrease, as Matt really did a good job of explaining. It's an increase. It's a significant increase. It's 6 cents. It's a big increase. We're telling the county we need a lot more money than we needed last year. Why? Inflation, in part. We have a whole bunch of employees that pay health care, and we have high health care costs. And all of those employees face the same inflationary pressures that all of us face in our daily lives. So my budget says 61 cents for real estate. You know, we talk about fairness for all of the taxes. If it were only that simple, we would just have one tax and it would just be one number and it would be the same. And we've talked about that for years and years. We've talked about flat taxes at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level. The reality is that we have reasons why we have taxes at different levels. And we have reasons why we assess them every year. You know, when assessment comes in and some people's homes are worth 40% more, it's going to really change people's minds about what's the appropriate tax rate. And if we all agreed at the beginning of every year without any thought of what had changed in the past year, you know, we'd even have less public comment. So again, I'm in support of 61 cents for the real estate, which is a huge increase in our taxes. And I'm in support of us funding our schools, not only to what they've asked for and what they need, but for the first year, since we know that for the last 13 years, looking back, we've missed the field goal by $233,000. We don't even know if it goes in between the uprights. We never built uprights because we never thought about kicking it above the crossbar until now. I propose we pay the $233,000. It won't do anything about the last 13 years that we haven't met their needs. But this year, we could actually signal to our schools that we're going to do something about teacher salaries other than just doing studies like the Springstead study of 2017 that told us we'd be here if we didn't do something different. We knew we'd be here, and we can continue to kick the football and kick it under the crossbar, and 5 years out of 13 maybe hit the crossbar and celebrate that we met their needs 5 out of 13 years. So I propose that we go ahead and meet the actual needs plus $233,000. And I also propose that on the boat tax, this is really critical to our community. Some taxes are just simply for revenue. We just need revenue, or else there's no point in doing any of the government's business and any of the things that government does for a community. But some taxes are also somewhat punitive to industries in a way that it offsets any revenue that we get from it. And our neighbors have proven this. They've said, let's just zero out the boat tax. They've proven it. They can live without it. They've quit the addiction, basically. And I don't know that it's all that neighborly, because they know all along that what that's going to do is it's going to put pressure on their neighbors to do the same thing or to argue amongst each other as to whether or not it's really hurting the industry. And well, if it's hurting the industry, well, they're rich people anyway, so they're okay to be hurt. I mean, we've gone down a lot of rabbit holes on the boat tax, and the reality is we know that we don't have 5 or 6 industries to choose from that are longstanding parts of our community, huge contributors to our community. And we can raise the boat tax. The industry knows what it'll do. Most of the people around here know what it'll do. And I've advocated in the past that we should continue to move it further in the other direction towards not having a boat tax. I don't have a boat. I can't afford a boat. I've got 4 kids. Talk about fixed income. I've got fixed expenses. But the point is, very simply, that with the boat tax, if we raise it back up, they've told us what's going to happen. It's going to continue the trend that's been happening ever since 15 years ago when these other counties all around the eastern part of Virginia started zeroing out their boat taxes. And so I propose that if fairness is what we want, then why are we agreeing to set all these tax rates at 98 cents? Let's set them at 61. And why are we making a bifurcation for 5-ton and under and 5-ton and over? If that's where we think the source of inequity and unfairness is, let's set them all at 61. So I'm in support of 61 cents for real estate, 61 cents for boats over 5 tons, 61 cents for boats under 5 ton, and making sure that we fund our schools to the point where we actually see what it looks like when the football goes through the uprights.
Thank you, John. Don, how about you? I get to go last.
Oh, you get to go last. It was very nice to see everybody here tonight. Thank you for all your comments. And I'm not just saying that, I mean that sincerely. The Board of Supervisors has had some unique things that they've had to talk about this year. Trying to balance the budget has been probably the utmost discussion that we've had. When I ran for this spot, I had people, I told them I'd been a businessman for a long time. And some people said, well, how does that make you qualify for running for the Board of Supervisors? So let me share for any of y'all that I didn't tell this to. And being new, I can only speak from where we are today and where we're going forward. But I can tell you this board, including myself, is very tuned in to what it takes to run this county like a business. And we've had some very good discussions about what that means. And we've had a lot of discussions of what that means from tax rates to whatever we're discussing, how that impacts the county voters and citizens of Middlesex County. And we're very serious about that. Thank you for coming and talking about what concerns you have, and it does not go unnoticed. Most all of us have phones that we will answer your phone if you call. I had somebody the other day tell me, well, why don't you just put your phone on vibrate or let them leave a message and then decide whether you should call them back or not. And after I picked myself up, I said, you know, I wasn't raised that way. I don't operate that way. I'm going to listen to what everybody says, and then we'll come to the right decision. The county has some very big projects that we're dealing with. So some of the money constraints and budget controls that we look at is based on some of the expense to the county. And we do that and do it, I think, very well. And we do it with a lot of discussion, and we try to compromise our position a little bit so it's good for everybody. And we will continue to do that, no doubt. I will say, Reggie and I have a little bit of contest going on of who can be at the most sporting events in Middlesex County. I think it's a tie right now, isn't it? Huh? We're very serious about what the school system is. We're very serious about what the tax rates should or shouldn't be. To use an old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Everything that we discuss now, we'll discuss again next year, and we'll decide whether we need to tweak it a little bit, or we need to change it a little bit, or did it work, or did it not work. And we're very serious about that. Everybody from the town administrators, assistant administrators, everybody that's here, we're very serious about that. I'll just say two other things about a couple of the discussions here. The Board of Supervisors, we do think outside the box. We think outside the box on how it pertains to what's good for Middlesex County. There's some decisions that we may make that we may have to change down the road based on where we are, what's going on, what our budget is doing. The whole board was very serious this year, and with the help of Matt Walker, in coming up with what was it going to take to balance the budget. We went significantly over the budget last year and had to draw into the reserve fund. And most of the people sitting here, or all of the people sitting here, was very concerned about that long term and what that would do. And we've had some lengthy discussions. We've had some arm wrestling competitions between each other, but we've worked very hard to get to that position. And with that, you know, and I feel for John on the football hitting the goal post or hitting the center bar. I will echo again that when the school board has come to us and asked us for something, the board has been very appealing, if you will, on trying to do what they need to do to appreciate the teachers, to appreciate the administrators in our school system, and that's not going to change. That won't be changing. Now, how we do what we want to do, Reggie's got some pretty good ideas on that, and we've all talked about a couple of things of how we can get more to the teachers, and so that is continuing to be debated and talked about. But we are within a tight crunch. We have water and sewer coming to the county that's going to change the complexion of the county. Those costs are going to be very high. Some of them have gone over budget, but we're trying to control that as best we can. So with that, we have to think very seriously what we're doing with the budget today. Not tomorrow, today, and for the next fiscal year. That doesn't say that whatever we decide to do this year may change next year in a positive way for whatever group that we're talking about. But we're very serious about that. And we're going to do everything we can to run this county as the best business that's out there. That's my commitment. I'm pretty sure it's a commitment of everybody that's sitting here in front of you to do that. There'll be some tough times. There'll be some good times. Hopefully there's not any bad times, but I can't promise you that. But I can tell you that this board looks very seriously at all of the aspects of the county. And we don't look singly for what's best for this group or this group or this group. It's what's best for the citizens of Middlesex County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Mr. Jesse.
All right. I know a lot of the board members have said a lot of things. I've probably been on the board longer than anyone here. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime since I've been here, born and raised. And also, the heydays with the boating industry, you got to understand, times are changing. So, you really got to look outside the box and think of other ways to make your business better. I also would like to say with the schools, through the whole Commonwealth, schools are your biggest budget, biggest expense, and through the whole Commonwealth. So, and everybody knows that. And over the years, I can say, we give the school what they want majority of the time. They ask for the 7%, and then you got the biannual and 3% for the following year. So, I'm going to give this, we're going to support the schools. We never say we're not going to support the schools. And also, I guess, dealing with boat tax, I dealt with it from 4 years ago. When you got some people together and say, hey, let's lower it. And John was probably the only one on the board when we done it. And it was done, but I'm going to let you tell you the truth. I didn't agree with it because, I want everybody to be fair because, like last time, I talked to a lot of my constituents and people all through the county, When they did that, they lowered it for the 5 tons and above, but then you increase in other areas. And you think about it, the wealthy can afford it, and I understand how businesses are run in the marine industry, but you got to understand, we can't do what Lancaster do. You got from here with 12 to 13 marinas just in Middlesex County, and over 30 through the whole county, but about 13 to 14, and just in Deltaville, with many unique expertise from barge building, sail making, or whatever, you know, Deltaville is a very unique area. So, you know, I'm just letting you know, hey, you're going to have to start thinking a little bit better, because even with your slips, you're competing against other marinas. But not only that, just think about it. You have West Marine there, number one, and they're not going to be in an area that they don't think there's business going to be there, and because they attract business from all these other areas that don't have any boat tax. And just think about if we do away with the boat tax, your real estate going to be up $3 per hundred. I'm serious. Just think about it. We can't do what Lancaster got. Lancaster got nine marinas. Think about that, 9. And then you go over Gloucester, 3 or 4. It's not competing apple to apple. And I can guarantee you, I got some friends here because I've been here a long time. He put his boat down at Virginia Beach and bring it back. So, you know, you can't tell me that's the only reason the boat tax, why everybody leaving. It's a lot of different variables, and that's what you got to look at. It's a lot of variables. You got your millennials doing different things. I mean, yeah, people coming here buying boats, but they're leaving with them too. But you got to understand, it's not the only specific thing. And if you think that if we do away with the taxes, or if we raise the taxes up 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, is that going to make a big difference? Not really, because you got to understand, times are changing. We're in a crazy world right now. Gas is going up, pandemic, a lot of things going on. So you can't sit there and tell me that just because if we raise it or keep it the same, it's going to change everything overnight. It's not. Because I'm going to tell you, I've been here all my life. As some people say they've been here 50-something years. I've been here longer than that. But I might have been a little boy, but I can tell you, I know the heydays are gone. Think about that. The heydays are gone. And it's all depending on when you bought your marina and what things are doing. Okay, I went through that. I'm not going to be long. All right, I talked about the schools. Okay, what else do we need to talk about? We need to set a rate for the county. That's what we need to do. And like I'm saying, I want to be fair. That's all. I want to be fair. And I know Lud's gonna have to say his piece. And I'm just saying, all the board members said some good things, but what we got to realize, we're not playing football. We run the county. We got water and sewer coming here. That's what we got. We got water, sewer coming here, and it's running. Water's going to come in now. Sewer's going to come. Business will come, but you got to have smart economic growth. You should look at Gloucester and look at their tax rate. They got a lot of stuff going on, but when you have a lot of people, a lot of businesses, you got to have smart economic growth, and that's what we're trying to do here in Middlesex County. You have some board members that just got here and think we're doing the worst thing, but it's not. We got to do what's right for all the citizens, not just a few elite few. I'm gonna tell you that. So I don't know where we're gonna go with this tax rate right now, and what we're gonna do with the boat rate, I don't know on that. But like I say, I think if we be fair, you got to be fair, because I got some numbers here. Over the last time we changed this and lowered it to 62 cents. I'm just letting you know. Because one board member said, let's do it and find out what happened. We had William and Murray and another one of my members here. They came in and they said it wasn't the only reason. And that's what I'm trying to instill to you. It was not the only reason. You got a lot of factors of why boats are leaving and coming. And right now, I'm gonna put the ball in Lud's hand right now, and then sooner or later we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do. Number one, with the boat tax and the tax rate, because I can tell you right now, the schools ask for a certain percent they got, and you gotta think about this. When you do it that year, you gotta do it another year, and it's gonna be on forever. So now you wanna do more than what you wanna do than what they ask. I just want to do what's right for the taxpayers here. That's what I want to do, and I want the kids to have a good education, and we're gonna get there, but we're gonna work with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everybody. One of the things that's such a pleasure working with my colleagues on this Board of Supervisors, we do have different lenses on the world, but at the bottom of our hearts, we all strive to do what's best for this county. There are different ways to achieve that goal, and we get a lot of good input. We heard a lot of good input tonight. You're never going to make everybody happy. We know that. So I just share my perspective. As you know, I'm from the Deltaville end, and so I represent a lot of people who make their living in the marine business, and it's where the marinas are. We have a history in this county that goes back to when we were a shipping port. Deltaville and Middlesex County grew because you had a lot of grain, watermelons, fish, oysters that were harvested here, shipped up to Baltimore. It was a major seaport. So boating became a part of the DNA of Middlesex County. When the trucking industry supplanted water transportation, the Deltaville area and other areas in Middlesex turned to building wooden boats and became the boat-building capital of the Chesapeake Bay. And so we further had our DNA built around boats. As the wooden boats began to decline and as other people began to seek recreation someplace besides Virginia Beach, they discovered Deltaville. They could come to Deltaville, buy waterfront property for a pretty reasonable price. They could do boating, and it grew and it really flourished. And eventually it drove up the value of waterfront property. And that's if you want to put your finger on the tax base of Middlesex County, is waterfront property. All up and down the county, it sells for a premium, and that subsidizes all the other things that we would like to have in the county, such as large fields of corn, wheat, and soybeans, our schools, and it's a wonderful thing. And we need to encourage the continued smart development of our communities. We've got a lot of waterfront community, at least in Deltaville, that has the opportunity to grow with water and sewer because it couldn't be developed before. We have to do that smart, but that's going to give us an opportunity to expand our tax base. What we've struggled with is industry. Boat building industry has declined, and the boating marine industry, the marinas and the boatyards, if you think about it, what is our core business? What is it that we have the opportunity to grow and to create jobs and to expand our tax base in Middlesex County? It's built around the boating industry. I believe that the people that run boatyards and marinas know a lot more about their business than I know about them. So I've talked to them. Many of them bought their marinas at a time when values were going up and all the surrounding counties had a comparable boat tax to what we had. And then in the mid-20 teens, the other counties decided that they would like to have all these people come visit their restaurants and get service done in their yards. And so there was an exodus, particularly of the big boats. If you've got a $30 a year annual boat tax and you can go to zero, maybe it's not worth driving across the bridge. But if it's $3,000 a year, maybe it is worth driving across the bridge. And so that's why the bigger boats are the ones that we're really talking about here. I did some research. I thought it was intriguing to look at the idea of, do people really move because of tax rates? And I stumbled across something that I found really intriguing. You remember in the 1960s when we had the British invasion, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Did they make money? Were they wealthy? Yes, they were. But guess what? they became tax exiles. They moved out of England because the taxes were too high. And then so did David Bowie and Rod Stewart and Cat Stevens. All those people, they could afford to stay there, but all they had to do was move, and then they didn't have that tax burden. If you look in 2015, Mercedes-Benz was headquartered in New Jersey. Could Mercedes-Benz afford to pay their taxes in New Jersey? Of course they could. But they relocated their headquarters to Georgia because there was no reason that they should pay those high taxes when they could plow that into research and development or paying their people better. It was a smart move. So there is such a thing as tax exiles. And if you think it's hard to move, it's easy to move the headquarters of Mercedes-Benz with 1,000 employees. Think how easy it is to move a boat that's 40 feet long. It's pretty easy. So I believe that there is an impact on the bigger boats and on our tax revenue in this county, because the fact is you can't tax a boat that's not here. If it's gone, there are no taxes coming from it. And so the idea that it's unfair to people to have a lower tax on a boat that's not here, just, it doesn't work. So we've got to have the boats here, and we've got to have that growth that drives our economy, I feel. I don't know of another industry that gives us the ability to really grow our tax base and our future success in this county. And it's in our DNA. I'm first and foremost pro-business, and I think we need to support the businesses that we have. It breaks my heart when I see the number of restaurants that have closed. I look at Deagle's Boatyard, it's closed. How many jobs did we lose there? We lost more jobs there than we're going to pick up with a Tractor Supply. And we have to do everything we can to make it possible to grow industry in this county. It will allow us to relieve the burden that we're placing on our real estate values if we can expand our tax base into sales taxes, lodging taxes, the meals taxes, the other opportunities that we have in order to raise revenue in the county and diversify that tax base. So I also recognize that the boat tax is a significant portion of our total tax. It used to be $1.4 million in 2011. This year, it'll be about $750,000. That's the extent of what we've lost in boats that have left. We can't just make that disappear. So what I advocate is I want to continue looking for ways that we can solve the problem of that boat penalty, stop creating tax exiles, solve the problem of the boat penalty for having your boats here without shifting that burden over to the real estate of everybody in the county. That's the golden goose as far as I'm concerned. We have some creative ideas that have come out of the marine industry that we actually are beginning to look into. And my hope is that my colleagues and I will work together this year and come up with a solution that will allow us to do that. And we can then let our DNA continue to evolve us into a better county than we've ever been before. So personally, I feel that our school board has done a responsible job. They're elected officials. They have recommended to us a budget. We have worked closely with them. In fact, John and I actually meet with a committee that's comprised of school leadership, school board. We talk about budget. We try and understand their needs. And I feel like this board in this proposed budget is meeting the needs of the school board, whose job it is to interpret what does the school system need and tell us what they need. So I feel like we've satisfied them. We can achieve a balanced budget by leaving our boat tax rates exactly the same as they are now and lowering the rate on the real estate to 61 cents from 62 and meet the requests of the school board as advertised in the newspaper in the article that led up to this meeting. So that's my recommendation. And I invite any further questions or dialogue among my colleagues here.
Well, you got option one. In option one, it said that well, I agree with the first part you were saying, but I'm not agreeing with the part that you're gonna leave the vote rates the same. I don't agree with that. I think it should be 98 cents. We talk about fair and quality, then we turn around and slap ourselves in the face. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't work with marinas to try to find a way, but while we're trying to find a way, we put it back like it was 4 years ago, and then we work from that. I mean, I'm willing to, to work with them in any kind of way as a board member that they wanted to come up with some type, of idea to make themselves successful. But I'm not for leaving it where it's at. Not now.
Well, I will entertain a motion to establish the tax rates. Do you have a motion, Reggie?
Yes, I have a motion using option one. In option one, it tells us everything we need to know at the top of the county budget and whatever. It talks about the personal property tax on boats, water staff weighing 5,000 and more, prescribed to Virginia Code 58.3506 to 98 cents per hundred per assessed value as advertised.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I guess it's a question for me. If the concern on the boats that I've heard voiced is that it's not fair, why is it that we immediately go to 98 cents and not to 61 or 62?
Mr. Chair, I can answer that one. When we changed it, we lost $586,000, $703.39. That was not put in. So it was at 98 cents. Everybody, when you did that, you lost over $500,000 in 4 years. Do the math. I got it right here. I'll let you look at it if you want to answer that question.
And did we not lose a lot of boats and also lose revenue in that same time? I mean, I'm not trying to do this as a gotcha, Wayne. I mean, you can pretend I don't know the numbers. That's not what I'm doing to you. What I'm saying is we've said we didn't like this. And remember, when the board voted on this, that was not me. You say you. It was we. The board voted on that. But I just want to be clear. The idea of going to 98 cents has ramifications. It's not just free money. And by going to 62, when we went to 62, it is obvious that had we collected 98 at the same amount, it would have been more money. Everybody understands that. But there's something else that's happening, and that's what everybody else is sort of trying to make a case for, and that is the fact that if there are so many boats that can deliver so much tax money, whether it's at this rate or that rate, if we do something that makes those boats go away, whatever rate we set on those boats is going to mean that there's less eggs coming out of that goose, if you will. So by going to 98, I'm just saying if this was about fairness, because that's the argument, one of the arguments I heard, then let's set the boat rates the same and get rid of the 5 tons. And I'm asking in all seriousness, why do we immediately want to raise taxes on the boat tax? But when in past years I proposed raising the real estate tax, I'm left out in the wind on that. Nobody wants to raise real estate tax to, increase teacher salaries. then that's Kuntz being crazy again. But when we just nonchalantly say we're going to go to 98 cents on boats, and those marina owners, they just need to do a better job managing their business, I'm not with you on that.
The only thing I'm saying about it is that we dropped it down. I mean, whoever was on the board dropped it at one time. They didn't wait, hesitate, think, nothing. They dropped it. They had no idea on what's going to do. What we're saying now is that you put it back to normal. Put everybody on the even thing was 98%. Now work with marinas. Lud said a few minutes ago, they got so many ideas and things they can do. We can think about something that we can do to help them, but not by just changing the rate. And it was just wrong. We can sit here and disagree to agree or whatever. You just don't walk in there and just drop the rate for no reason at all. It was wrong. Fix the wrong, then we go from there. And that's what we got to do. We can't keep on bickering at each other. We lost $500,000. All right, that's it. It's over. We can't get it back. We want everybody to know. But also our chair said a few minutes ago that we can work on this thing. But first of all, let's make it back on an even street that everybody's the same. Then we go from there and work on what we can do in the future. Some ideas that I done heard from different ones that at the Marines and in the different departments got ideas of how we can do to be successful. We can be successful as a county, and we got to stop doing it as individuals. Right now, it's fixing what was wrong. That's all it is. We fixed that wrong that we done. Now we're going to work through. Evidently, it's one a whole lot of work on it at that particular time. Thank you.
So Reggie, my only comment there is you're considering that 98 cents is normal, but the fact is that when the boat tax for the bigger boats was lowered, some people said, okay, this is the new normal. I'm willing to stay here for this. Now, headline of the newspaper comes out next week, tax on those boats increase. That's not normal anymore. I got an increase. It's time for me to look at Lancaster County or whatever. And that just my point is that this is normal now. 98 cents isn't normal. What we have now is normal.
Well, Lud, it just like you say, if we go back to, let's the gentleman say, well, 62 is normal to him, whether just playing with the dice, we got to go back to where we start from to do what's right. So if we keep on changing, everybody say that's normal. It's not normal. When you change within a period time frame, it won't normal from the change. So now we're just trying to go back, and we said we'll look at it. It's not like, we're patting nobody in the back. We'll look at it in a better way. People got ideas they can come forward. How can they create some more revenue or whatever? But the simplest thing to do is to put it back where we was and work from there. And that's the way I look at it. I don't.
And my concern is just, it's a clear signal. Big boat owners, we don't want you. Marine owners, we don't support you.
See, and that's the kind of language only coming from yourself. It's not coming from me, because I just said, hey, we want to work with you. So if we have anybody on the board that's saying, hey, we don't want you, you always say, watch the mouth that it comes out of, because that mouth might be right with you. What I'm saying as a board member is I'm willing to work with them and come up with ideas that we can do something and we can be successful, not failure. But Marines, we're not going to stop some of you from sitting down because maybe you just have a bad operation. You got to know, Kenny Rogers, you got to know in the hole and you got to know in the fold. As the board, I'm saying that I'm willing to work with them with the ideas and stuff like this here that we can come up with. That is what I'm saying. I'm not telling you kick you out in the cold. And if 30 cents is going to kick you out in the cold, then maybe you're already in the cold.
Mr. Chair, I also like to say, I did tour a lot of the marinas last year. You got boats from all over the world on dry land, all over the world that are being worked on, not just in the slips. I went down there, and they're all over the world. I'm serious. And if you took a drone and went through all those boats that are on, I'm talking on dry dock. I ain't talking on the slips. On dry dock, Canada, everywhere. Germany. You'd be surprised the boats that are up there just being worked on, that they don't even have enough help. I'm serious. You'd be surprised. And John, I just want to correct you. Back 4 years ago, I did not favor it because we were bamboozled. I'm gonna let you know that when it was done, because you sided yourself when I had a member that forgive him, but two of us did fair, Two of y'all got behind our back and did what you needed to do to position you where you wanted to be. And I'm gonna just say it out loud. And I'm gonna leave it like that because you know what I'm talking about.
I will add bamboozling to my resume.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All right, John?
Well, since it's been pretty, getting a little warm in here, would you consider, you made the motion, correct? Reggie, you made the motion.
Yes.
Prior to a vote on the motion, would you consider amending your motion to something other than 98 cents per hundred?
I started off with it saying I want it to be fair and equal. The only way that I changed from 98 cents is that they would take the percentage difference of what it'll cost to do the boat and drop another 0.25% off your real estate taxes. So the money will go to everybody in the county. That'll be my other option.
What would be the,
Matt, you figure that out yet?
what would you consider
I'll work some numbers.
on that rate from 62 to 98?
It'll be, no, from 61, because we're at 61, so it'll be 60.
I know what that end does. Maybe he needs to do the math. I'm talking about on the boat rate, would you consider reducing from where your motion was at 98 to something else?
No, I'm not willing to change the percentages because I don't think it's right. But I'm willing to do it if you go to real estate. If you go take that money and put it on real estate, then everyone in the county benefits from it. Even from the other end of the county, the people, the elderly and everybody else would benefit in some kind of way from that revenue, regardless of where we put it at, but they will benefit from that.
I'll follow you on that. I do. My point, though, is if we're trying, is there a way for us to get to the middle here on this? Otherwise, we're going to vote on it, and it's either going to be approved or not approved. Is there somewhere we can meet in the middle from 62 to 98 that we get approval on this?
So
That's my question.
If it's not approved, we can entertain alternatives.
I know that.
Okay.
I'm just asking that to the man that made the motion.
You know, I ain't a guy for like change stuff, but you know, I'm pretty solid on that. And Don, you're not making it easy. I said what I preferred, you know, for it to stay like it is, and it goes to help everybody in the county as far as real estate. You drop it back to 60.75, something like that.
Yeah, if you did half a penny or a hay penny, as we call them in North Carolina, your rate would go from 60, the proposed 61, to 60.5, and I'm doing the math now.
Just for clarity, you're saying you would lower
your real estate
one half cent.
Lower the boat tax below 98 and lower the real estate tax?
No, I'm leaving the tax is going to be 98, and you're lowering the real estate tax.
I see.
So everybody can benefit from that. Other than that, you know, to me, that is two fair options. Either you make it 98 cents or you lower the real estate taxes, but the boats will still be 98 cents.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Maybe we have a roll call vote if there's no more discussion.
Roll call vote. Mr. Kuntz?
No.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion does not carry. I will, in recognition of our frequent practice, but nevertheless not anything that is extraordinary, I will make a motion myself as follows. The fiscal '23 Middlesex County budget in the amount of $31,149,755 includes all that Mr. Williams reviewed. Only the contingency would be reduced to $20,000. The real estate tax would be 61 cents, and that we retain the personal property tax on boats 5 tons or more at their current rate of 62 cents. All other classifications of personal property as advertised remain unchanged. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I got discussion. The 62 cent. How about splitting the difference between the 98 and the 62 to make it 80 cents on the boats?
I tell you why I'm opposed to that, Reggie. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's a huge signal to the marinas and to the boat owners. That's what bothers me about that. I believe that if we make this commitment to the boating community, that we are devoted to them, we want them to thrive, we're not going to further penalize them for keeping their boats here this year. We're going to strive to find a way to make it more attractive for boats to be here. I think it's an important signal for us to send.
Well, I'm trying to get a compromise between where we was and you went over the other way. I know it should be more. I know it should be more. There's no way we can set up here as supervisors and get it from the public itself and sit there and say, leave everything the same. You got to also respect the other property values, people that are voting. So we can't disrespect somebody to respect somebody else. And this particular time, it just, what's wrong with splitting the difference? I just don't get it. You split the difference. That'd be 180, it'd be 18 cents. You raised it 18%. You're still showing them respect because you're not going back to the rate that you dropped 3 or 4 years ago. So that is showing them respect. And most of them are here tonight anyway, and they can see and understand that too.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I plugged in some numbers, and just for the board's information, the effect of a half a penny on the tax rate is approximately $115,000. So if you did adopt a half measure on 1 cent, 60.5, you would lower the real estate collections by approximately $115,000. And that could be made up with fund balance, number of avenues for the board to consider there. I just want to let you know, I was a little late, but I got there.
What was the rate again?
For every half penny of tax, it's approximately $115,000. $114,713 to be exact.
So the difference from 61 to 60 and a half?
60.5 is 114,713, yes, less.
And that puts us short how much?
114,713. So we would either bring that amount in from fund balance, or that would be the amount that, I guess, if there was a compromise on the boat tax, y'all could look at it that way.
Thank you, Matt. I heard loud and clear from all of my fellow supervisors as we started our budget discussions in January that we are not going to go into fund balance this year. We went in $1.3 million last year. Thankfully, we had a very strong fund balance that we could draw from, but we are not amenable to tapping into fund balance this year, is my perspective. Other discussion?
Just so that we mention the schools, my numbers reflect that this option 2 with no boat tax increase and option 1 as well with the boat tax increase, both fall short of actually the MCPS request of $10,389,225 of non-debt service related expenditure requests. We're saying $10,371,514. So it's semantics, but we're not hitting the proverbial crossbar in this budget. We're kicking under it again, albeit by $20-some thousand. But as the number 2 advocate for the schools, I want to make sure that we know we're kicking the ball under the crossbar one more time.
Got another question then. If we raise the boat tax back up to 98 cents and give the money to the schools, then would you balance it?
Any other discussion?
What's my math major over there?
Uh-oh.
What's the difference with 60 and 60.5, I think was the number?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the number for not going to the fund balance and adjusting the marine rate to what?
Okay, I follow you. Give me a moment. Approximately 98 cents per 100. Excuse me, 89 cents.
Can you summarize what you're telling us, please?
Yeah, if the boats over 5 tons was raised to 89 cents, that would generate approximately $115,000 and some odd over, and that would be enough to make that half penny adjustment.
Just for fun and working on your math ability, you said that number was 78, what would you say?
89 cents.
89,
Yes,
right,
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
Just out of fun, where do we fall short if it came in at 72?
Okay. At 72, you generate $42,840 worth of additional revenue. So we would be short, the difference, but, between 114 and 42,840.
The difference is 142, is that what you said?
Yeah, I'll give you the difference right now.
Do you dare share your screen, Matt, so we can watch the math live all together?
The suspense is wonderful, isn't it? Give me a moment.
No pressure.
Oh, none taken. You're not making me spell in public. All right.
Can we have a motion to that effect, Dr.?
All right, so it looks like the difference is approximately $71,873.
Which would come from the reserve, is that correct?
Potentially, yes, sir. We have 20,000 in fund balance. So you would arguably need to bring in 50,000 from fund balance.
50,000, 20 in contingency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we take the 20 from contingency and bring in a 51,873 from fund balance, and that should balance it. Of course, I'll have to plug in all the numbers and pull that over to the revenue and expenditures. But you're thinking right. You can't go higher than 98 cents because that's what you advertise, but you can go lower. And you can't go higher than 61 cents, but you can go lower. So there's your threshold for negotiation.
Well, and I would add that you can also meet the needs of the school board and not go lower as was advertised in the paper.
Well, and that is correct, and we do have an option. John, I'm showing people's options here, so here's yours. There is an option to leave the boat tax or lower the boat tax to 61 cents and bring in, I think that's $233,000 from fund balance to balance. But again, the staff heard loud and clear too, y'all did not want to bring in money from fund balance this year.
Just to be clear, Matt, what I was referencing wasn't the option that you and I discussed earlier today. I'm just pointing out that what the school board requested and what we published in our budget in the paper is not the same thing. We're not meeting the school board's need, unless I'm in error, and I'd like you to confirm that.
We funded the school's request $11,100,000. They requested $11,169,000. So we were approximately $70,000 short.
And that's after a history of 13 years of us being an average of $233,000 short every year for the last 13 years. So I'm just saying, if we're talking about things we can tweak the boat tax, we can tweak the real estate tax, we can only come down on those two things. But when the school, we can't look at each other and tell each other that we meet the school board's needs. We do not, period, full stop. And we are not in the proposed budget. So let's just be honest about that before we even look at a third budget. We are not meeting their needs with this budget, full stop.
Well, sir, with all due respect, you're not meeting the needs of the county budget either. We started with in January. We made a number of cuts to several departments that needed that revenue as well. Not being argumentative, but we all tried to give a needs budget.
Is there any more discussion about the motion that's been properly made and seconded?
Maybe. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Matt, with all due respect, John, in that I think it shows that, or complements what was said earlier, that this board has been pretty daggone serious about balancing our budget and not going into the reserve fund. That being said,
If I may, Don, just to add some clarity to that, because I don't want the public thinking that we're up here arguing and at each other's throats. The board has been very successful in working through a number of work sessions where we lowered the initial ask of our departments by about $2 million to close a fairly substantial gap. And that's starting with a gap of bringing $1.3 million in from fund balance last year. So the board has worked very hard and staff has worked very hard to get where we are now. And we're right there, so.
well, and that was the point I wanted to emphasize was regardless of where the numbers fall, there's been a concerted effort to make sure that we have the numbers fall where we need them to fall for the county. Thank you for your math. Appreciate that.
We can thank Excel spreadsheet for that, sir.
So back to the current dilemma, we can either vote on the motion, or are you willing to make any adjustment on your motion?
As I said, Don, I don't want to signal to the marine industry and to the boaters who have objected to our new normal now that we are going to penalize them for leaving their boats here or continuing in that industry that we know is struggling. And we're talking about, relative to our budget, this is a very small amount of money, but it sends a big signal. And so I feel it's important, and the tax on the 5-ton and up was tied to the real estate. That's how it got to 62. I'm not proposing that we tie it to the real estate. I'm just proposing that we leave it. So that's where I come down.
I'm with you. what the new normal is today might not be the new normal next time we sit down and talk about this.
That's true. That's true. Like you said, the world changes, we have to adapt. 5 years ago, who would have thought we'd be where we are today? Who knows what comes next year?
Although the Springstead study gave us a pretty good sense of where we would be today in 2017 when they gave us that report that we paid for.
All right. I believe we can go ahead and have a roll call on the motion, please.
Okay. Mr. Harris?
Just for clarity, we're talking about the
Option 2?
option 2, which is the assessed value on personal property would go to, and I don't see that on there. Where is that?
61.
Oh, my bad.
61 for real estate.
Correct.
62 for the personal property tax on boats weighing 5 tons or more. Basically keeping the boats as is. And the
Correct.
real estate going to 61, I think is the motion, right, Lud?
Right.
That's right.
Right. I vote yes.
Mr. Jesse?
No.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Kuntz?
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes.
That's the end.
Thank you.
Your motion passes. Thank you. That's okay.
Gentlemen, thank you for, I think, an extremely beneficial, open discussion, and the integrity of this group, there's no peer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you,
staff,
Thank you too, we
Do we make a motion?
appreciate everything you're doing, but we gotta get a motion there.
Motion to adjourn and everything?
and real quick, before that motion's made, staff has already taken notes about studying this, starting really tomorrow, and coming up with some potential solutions. I think we've mentioned some preliminary ideas, the chairman and I, that may bear some fruit, and hopefully by next January, we'll have some solid, January or March, I'll give us a little bit of time, some solid options for the board to consider that may not make this so contentious next year.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I'd just comment that we did hear a really productive number of comments from the public, and I would encourage the public to come out in bigger and bigger numbers in the future leading up to these budget decisions. But one thing that I heard that makes absolute sense to me is if we're sitting on property that we're not doing anything with, it makes absolutely no sense. We don't have any good reason to do that, and I really appreciate that public comment.
Roger that.
Do I do roll call on this one?
Roll call?
Do I do that roll call on this one? Okay. The second was Mr. Williams? Wasn't it? Yes. That's what I wrote down. Roll call. Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kuntz?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes.
Thank you. That passed.
That's it. Thank you.
I should always get to vote last. I didn't know that, so I won't do that one again. Sorry about that. I'm like, no, that's not what rotation means. She's like, yes, that's what it means.
Thank you, Wayne.
All right, yeah, thank you.